Smith property up there. That's how we acquired that. It's roughly about the same amount of money.
So is it 50% match? Is that what they? Right. For land acquisition, the 50%.
It's
match.
50%, yes.
Yeah.
The implementation grant program for other things like infrastructure and so forth is only a 20% match. With the township only has to match 20% of that.
Brian.
Two comments. Brian Mel, 11 Zieglerville Road. One, as regards to, I'm being very supportive of the township looking at this, but with the idea of a letter of intent in the event that these grants, stacked grants, whatever, would fall through, that this would not progress, since we just recently reviewed our budget and we were in deficit and there were a lot of things being talked about.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I would definitely support that. Two, looking at the drawing here, I know in prior conversations, a lot of focus on this acquisition was the opportunity to connect to the trail. On this map, I don't see that connection such that it will take us up.
Its
to-
property line is on the trail.
It is on the trail, okay.
Yeah, on the Perkiomen Trail, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just get, okay.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I think one of the long range.
My comment was more from, the comment was from the townhouses getting down.
Yeah,
how we-
well, the important issue really is to try to acquire the land, and then at a future time, if we have monies that would enable us to do that kind of infrastructure and planning, we would probably pursue it at that time. But not having the land excludes you from doing that. Having land does, enable you to do that at a future date. And there's other benefits, of course, for having a parcel like this: stormwater management, aesthetics, it just on and on and on. There's a lot of benefit from there. Boat launch site, you can facilitate cooperative agreement for the water trail that's supposed to be put on the Perkiomen, so there's a great many benefits that we derive.
I think it goes without saying, based on what we've done as a township over the years, I think it is a long-range township objective to get people to be able to safely move around this township without having to venture out onto Spring Mountain Road, kids, pedestrians. So I'm looking at this personally as an opportunity that is coming along for a very brief period of time, and it may not be realized while I'm on this planet, but I look at this a little bit differently because I don't see this as an opportunity that's going to be there for 5 years or 10 years at this point. And I see it as a piece in a puzzle to perhaps approach solving a long-term or moving us closer to a long-term objective. As you know, a few years ago, we looked at a sidewalk grant, and the residents along Spring Mountain Road was not happy about the sidewalk grant. So to me, I look at this really as also a safety issue. I'm sure many of us have walked on Spring Mountain Road between our building here and our firehouse, and know what that entails.
Yeah, the day we did the site visit, everybody had to jump to the side several times because there's not enough shoulder, and it's a very unsafe situation to get from the municipal building even to the firehouse. It's dangerous. So, yeah, that in itself at a future time would be a great asset to the township to be able to make that a safe passage area.
Any other questions? Yeah, Don.
Don Leonard, Spring Mountain. My concern would be, so we just went through this with CVS Park, and we wrote 8 grants, and we got 0. So my concern is stacking grants upon grants upon grants to cover match funds or surveying. If you don't get them, and you would get the 2040, and you would refuse the 2040, rumor has it that the county really doesn't like that, and for any future people going after the 2040, that's kind of looked upon as not a good fit.
Well, let me just say this. The county came to us and said, don't you think this would be a good project for Lower Frederick, we can't do it, but Lower Frederick might be very interested in. So if you kind of read between the lines there, I mean, they did not dismiss it right off the bat when they did evaluate it in the context of the other county projects currently going on. It did not factor high enough for them to want to do it as a county project. But that said, you know, I would have to surmise that the county would look very favorably on this going forward as a township municipal project. So I think that speaks in favor of our position for a county grant to begin the process of funding the acquisition. And quite honestly, having worked through lots of grants in the past, once you have the acceptance in one, you have I would call it a better standing in trying to get the associated grants necessary to get the project done. They tend to pull each other along, if you will. So I'm not saying that anything's for certain, but I would have to contend that this is a very, very good grant. It has many of the right characteristics, and it has a timing for our purposes that's just absolutely great, because we've had this as a project area for the longest while. It was on our first open space grant, or open space plan from back in the 90s. So it's an area that's not unique to the township, I mean, as far as its consideration, and it meets so many criteria, you know, for what we're trying to get done. I just, you know, I don't want to be too much of a salesman here, but I think we have a very good shot at trying to get a project like this accomplished.
Yeah, and I have to, I have to agree with Phil. I actually have the grant prospectus in front of me. So it says, for open space preservation, conserving natural resources and environmentally sensitive areas can help maintain ecosystems, improve water quality, reduce flooding, provide needed buffers to developing areas, and provide recreation opportunities. Desirable projects may protect critical conservation areas, promote active tourism, increase opportunities to exercise, or green the county's towns. So I think understanding what they're looking for, it feels like this meets all of those criteria.
Yeah.
So Phil, how much, for the Schuylkill River and the Pico Green Region grants, what's the max, how much do they give for those two grants? Like, how much can you get?
Schuylkill River will provide up to $4,000 in assistance to the land acquisition. And this past year, 2019, if you're talking about the maximum that we could get out of Pico, it would have been $20,000. So.
And what can that be used for?
The entire, or the purchase of the land.
Oh, okay.
Phil, I believe I shared with the Planning Commission the letter I received from Senator
Right,
Lynch
yeah.
regarding the DCNR grants, and that too can be utilized for land acquisition, for recreation purposes, both passive and active.
Yeah.
And I believe that due date maybe April 22nd. So we would have like an additional month to get that together.
Yeah,
And I don't think the match on that was as high as like the 50%. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think it may have only been a 10 or a 20%.
Yeah, well, I think you're going to
The
DCNR,
webinar?
and you can probably get some
I
information.
already met with the DCNR rep from our area.
Oh,
This
geez.
project is too small for the DCNR grant.
Oh, would you?
Yeah,
But there were
they're minimal like
actually
100,000.
grants.
Yeah, but DCNR, everything goes in together, and then I met with him, we sat down, and he also recommended the school, Highlands, and a couple other ones that we.
And grant programs come and go. This is still early in the year. I'll give you an example. Up at Mang, we wanted to do a project early on, and we got a phone call one day, hey, we just released a new grant program, you know, and we ended up landing it. It was a small one from the William Penn Foundation, but, you know, it did a lot of the funding that we needed for that particular project. So these things can come through all during the calendar year, so.
Amy Sachs, Cicero. Two things. So first, I didn't hear a number on, I think you call it the broker's grant, or the broker's appraisal. You just
Yeah, I
had
was
us
gonna
talk
ask
about-
Yes,
if
the
if
broker's
we possibly be
opinion,
able to know what the broker's
So
opinion
What
$8,000
was
to
the
$10,000
number?
per acre.
How much?
$8,000 to $10,000.
Yeah,
Is
she
that
came
what I mean?
through
$8 to $10 per acre.
per acre, yeah. We really haven't nailed that down. It probably will be somewhere between 2.5 on the high end and about 1.5 on the low end, depending on whether we do it as an easement area, a green area as an easement area, and just purchase the yellow, or we do the entire thing as an outright purchase
So
again.
around 30,000.
Yeah, that.
Yeah, we're probably talking
Right.
30.
So I
Yeah.
think people were just thinking about numbers, you know.
Yeah, no,
numbers
this is
going
the
around.
time to have that conversation.
The other piece, just to piggyback on Cindy's, was, maybe I don't think anybody, it sounded to me as if people were interested if the grants were in place. You know, I think that's what it was coming down to. Not that we didn't like the first grant or anything
No,
like
no, no,
that. It was just the
absolutely.
idea of if the money can come to it. So,
No. No, I think we've been pretty clear about that from the get-go.
Well, let me, one sec. Dan, are you with us still?
Yes, I'm here.
Do you have any questions for Phil?
No, I think Phil did a great job of presenting the information. The only question I would have is, there's opportunity, Phil, is there opportunities for donations towards this project, aside from the grants, like if individuals in the township wanted to donate towards it and have it earmarked towards this project?
Well, there's certainly, we've explored that before with various projects, but we haven't actually put out an appeal for any, funding from the private individuals or organizations towards that. But I certainly know that the township would be more than willing to entertain them if they were offered. And, I have, mentioned that I would be happy to provide some funding towards, an appraisal if that was necessary to get this thing rolling. And, call that the first contribution. I would be happy to do that privately.
Is there anything specific that needs to be done if we wanted to collect donations?
No, just send it on in.
We'll take it.
I like that, yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yes, that's fine. I'll
yeah,
wait.
Jason Costco, Spring Mountain. Just two questions. One, you mentioned this was an idea since the 90s, if I heard that right. So what is the actual, I may be missing something, what is the actual plan to do with the land? Do we have that? And then two, is there any, or I won't say opportunity, but is there any discussion to expand this beyond, and there's other additional township land to the left of that? Has that come up, or are there any plans to expand?
Well, the green area across the stream is already preserved by the county. That's Spring Mountain. And
Behind the,
yeah, down where the legend for the
Yeah.
map is.
So how do you connect the village, basically, is what he's asking.
Well,
yeah, is there discussion? I guess what I'm trying to
again, in other words, we walked the site and looked at it from that perspective and discussed it. I mean, we didn't put down a hard and fast plan by any means. This is still conceptual, but the feeling from the group at the time we did the inspection was that if you were to say come from Wood Village Drive to the municipal building and then want to access that property to get over to, say, Floyd Park, you would come across the front of the township building on sidewalking at this point. You may then have an opportunity to put a series or a section of sidewalk across where the little bridge is and the ravine at the Coletti property. And then you would make a right-hand turn when you reached the township property for the sewage treatment plant. Go around the back of it, I guess I'll call it the back, the stream side, around the lower side, and then you would access the Reynolds from that side of the. Maybe can you define that for the on there from with the pointer?
Talking about coming
Yeah,
down
so if you were to
Village
leave
Drive.
the township building where your pointer is now, just go across Coletti's front. You would then make, too far, make a right, and go down,
Around like this?
yeah, around the back of the sewage treatment plant, and then you would enter the preserved area of the Reynolds property at the green spot there. So it's doable. We looked at it. It doesn't have too many encumbrances. It's a possible route for a future trail, if you will, that way. present time, I think the property's biggest benefit is its access to the Perkiomen Trail has an annexed or extended area of Foy Park. So immediately, I suppose, if you were to acquire it, you could put some picnic benches if you wanted, perhaps, in the near term, work with maybe the Watershed Conservancy and put a place to launch kayaks or canoes. So by virtue of the fact that it's on the stream, you immediately have a water feature benefit that is pretty great. And it's wooded, by the way, so it's a shade area and so forth. It's just pleasant to be down by the water.
I'm sorry, what is your last name? How do you spell your last name?
Koscho.
That was actually part of my question. Dana Valenti, Goshen Road, was whether we needed to consider any type of easement along the edge of the Reynolds property to be able to access that area.
Well,
Do you mean like
You're
coming
saying
down
the-
the orange section?
The
Do you mean
green?
coming down the orange section?
No, the green section.
The green is what we're gonna,
No, from the township, like
Oh.
along that blue line going up toward the township property. That's what I was just
Yeah.
concerned about.
my understanding is we're on
That's what
township
we're gonna-
property and then go right to this green
Go right to
easement.
that green.
Mr. Reynolds expressed a concern. His children still, when they come visit, believe it or not, they like to sleep in tents on the property. They did that all their lives. So a lot of times when they come in the summer, they actually camp out. So he didn't want to relinquish. He wasn't excited about the idea of relinquishing the ownership of it. So that's how we involved a purchase of the land into a conserved area with an access easement granted to the township. So we would not own it. He would still own it, but we would have a right to use it for conservation and access purposes. So if a future trail was to go through there, we would have the ability to do that. But he would still have the ownership of that property in that blue area defined by the blue line. Warren?
What if Mr. Reynolds sells the rest of the property after, if we would
No,
acquire
it's-
this?
It's a recorded easement.
Would that easement remain with the property?
Yes.
And would
It follows the.
because, I mean, his kids wouldn't need access
Yeah,
to it by
follows the
then if
property.
they...
Yeah, you could have, there's even things called sleeping easements that come back from colonial times that people aren't even aware of or place, and certain individuals have a right to, a claim against the property, so it follows the property, It's recorded at the county. And we have others, already, the township has on the old Watkins Rittenhouse property up on Swamp Creek Road, we have basically the same thing. We have a title or an easement on there for conservation and trail purposes. It's sleeping and that it's not being used, but at a future time, if we wanted to activate it, we could. So we have other easements around the township that provide that ability of the township if we care to use them or if we want to use them. Brian?
Go ahead, Brian.
Brian, 11 Ziegler. So who's responsible for the liability in an incident that happens? So when he sells it, he's gonna have problems selling it if there's liabilities on the homeowner of that easement. I mean, does that liability become an issue of the township?
It can be addressed in the context of the conservation easement.
Right, because I don't think nobody, I mean, first of all, if that was the case, they should put blockers at the end of each easement saying, no, thank you, because I'm not paying for your, if you injure yourself on my property and that's an easement, I get it, but you're not coming on my property.
Well, maybe you could speak to.
Yeah, so the easement is permission to use the property for a certain reason. So the conservation easement would allow, we'd write it in such a way that it would allow the township and its invitees to use that trail, that area there for recreational purposes.
On the liability of the homeowner.
And presumably the homeowner would want any liabilities to rest with the township.
Okay.
So that's why the township has insurance and that's why
I'm
the
just,
state
I
limits
can't
liability.
imagine that just any homeowner would allow.
Point
If you're gonna make that an access.
point of history, this was all addressed with Tom Keenan a few years
Understand.
ago.
Right.
He wrote up
I'm just
good
thinking
explanation
future
about all.
purposes,
application.
Put it on the table.
And
Just,
I may be able to find the email that he sent out, or if we have it in our township records, but Tom did prepare a letter explaining how.
I think I have it in the PC files.
Yeah.
Bruce?
I just have a quick question. What's the triangular little notch?
so these have whoever the third generation owners. I'm not sure how accurate it is in the picture, but it's a weird little piece that comes across the creek. It's kind of in line with the water intake for the ski mountain.
Oh, so it's owned by the people across the,
Yes.
across the creek, okay.
Huh? It's that third generation investment. Not that piece.
So one of the things that you had listed, Mark,
Yes.
was opportunity for MS4 projects in the future.
Yeah, as the MS4 continues, the permit continues to grow, Carol talked about this a little, if the creek is a TMDL for a different pollution or sediment, or if they're now doing pollution reduction plans for the creek, having an area along the creek to plant trees to repair the riparian border area along the creek would be a good option and a good opportunity for the township to achieve our deductions that we would have to make for MS4.
My understanding is there are grants for that too.
There are, yes.
Yeah, actually, last night, the gentleman from the Conservation Service pointed out there are grants for tree plantings and things of that nature for municipalities to access to benefit their MS4 program requirements. And I think, Warren, didn't you, you pointed out there's certainly some need down there for some plantings and improvements to the trees that were on the property, because Warren took the visit with us. Can you?
Well, it's already forested, it's wonderful tree, real pleasant place to be. The place that's really degraded, I guess, is in the area that would be the easement or near the sewer plant.
So critical path, I know, probably want to draw this agenda item to some sort of conclusion for tonight. So critical path, as I see it, there's been dialogue with the property owner.
Yes.
I'm not sure, maybe Mark can answer this question, whether the property owner's been given any kind of number, but whether his expectations and what we're able to do, or do we have some sort of feels of where we are?
Not yet.
That.
Not yet. So, we've had a couple conversations with them, haven't really talked money too specifically yet, so we can start to have that.